So while the Titans are dealing with major changes like a lot of other NFL teams, Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, and the Titans offense, well, they do have a new offensive coordinator. Todd Downing promoted from tight ends coach to OC after Arthur Smith left to be the new head coach of the Falcons. So taking a look at the Titans offense from last season, there is one glaring exception. However, multiple categories, top 5 in the NFL. So under their new offensive coordinator, can they sustain this or even get a little bit better? All right, let's welcome back Bryant, McFadden, and Danny Kanell. We are going inside the Titans war room one week away from the NFL draft. We're just counting down the days here. All right, so the Titans do have a new offensive coordinator. Mike Vrabel's been pretty quiet about his decision to promote Todd Downing. But the good thing, BMAC, I guess here is that there's continuity. What else can we expect from this offense under Downing?
Well, I think some of the same things we've been seeing over the last 2 years when Arthur Smith was there, especially at the quarterback position with Ryan Tannehill. In 28 starts over the last 2 years, Ryan Tannehill has been able to provide 55 passing touchdowns and real prolific play in the red zone. So having Downey be a part of the success from the offense in totality and from Ryan Tannehill as an individual, I think he has a real good understanding about what Ryan Tannehill likes, what the entire offense likes. And he's familiar in working with quarterbacks. When you look at his time with the Raiders, I think from 2015 to 2017, he was pretty much hands-on with Derek Carr. And during that stretch, remember, Derek Carr made 3 Pro Bowls. So he understands what it takes to have a successful, efficient, consistent quarterback. And like I said, being able to be a part of their staff, was huge for Vrabel and being and anointing Todd Downing as the new OC. So I really like the move because sometimes when you go out and get a new face from another organization, it takes time to establish the chemistry and for that play caller to understand what the offensive players like.
Yeah, I think this was an easy move for Mike Vrabel. You don't want to, rustle too many feathers after the success that you've had. And guess where Arthur Smith came from? He was promoted in-house as a tight ends coach. Same thing you're doing with Todd Downing. So I think it makes a tremendous amount of sense. There's continuity in the system, the terminology. But this graphic is oh so perfect because guess what you're going to see from the Titans under new offensive coordinator Todd Downing? A whole lot of Derrick Henry. I mean, this is who they are. And I think this is a great thing. And this is why Mike Vrabel didn't want to change things up too much. They have a very, very clear identity. And for the last 2 years, they have handed it to Derrick Henry and said, good luck stopping him. And not many people have been able to do it too far. And guess who's benefited from it? Ryan Tannehill. You mentioned the 55 touchdowns in the last couple of years. He's had much better protection because he's working off play action pass. It opens things up in the secondary. I do think this will be a different looking offense. Jonnu Smith, of course, left to sign with the Patriots. You lost Corey Davis as a wide receiver, so there's some opportunity to add a couple more weapons. But I think, ultimately this offense is going to look very, very similar to the way it has the last 2 seasons.
It's not often you can say a quarterback has a better career after the age of 30 like Ryan Tannehill has. All right, let's talk about the Titans as a whole and their free agency coming off a season where they won the AFC South for the first time since 2008. They did lose in the wild card round to the Ravens, so there's still work to be done. Free agency, and I want to start with mentioning some of the departures, and Danny, you did this as well. Adoree Jackson, Jonnu Smith, Desmond King, Corey Davis, Malcolm Butler. They did make some additions as well, but Dupree, Janoris Jenkins, Josh Reynolds. So Danny, we'll start with you here. How do you grade their free agency?
Incomplete. I like it so far, but this team has so much to work on, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I like the Janoris Jenkins signing. I don't love it. I think it's solid. It addresses a need. I like the Bud Dupree addition. Yes, it was expensive and they had to break the bank for him, but I think you might have even had a chance to buy low coming off that injury. But you saw what he meant to the Pittsburgh Steelers defense last year, and he went down. You saw the production drop off. I think from a production standpoint on the field, you're also going to get an incredible asset in the locker room, a player that his teammates are going to love, his enthusiasm be infectious, his work ethic, all those types of things that are added value to a player you're going to pay that much. So I love it from that perspective. But this defense needs a whole lot more addressed to it.
Yeah, I'll give them a B right now. They went out and they tried to resolve some of their woes from last year, and that was putting opposing quarterbacks on their back. They only had 19 sacks. I think they're ranked 30th in the National Football League. And one thing we know about watching the game of football on the NFL level, if you can't put pressure on quarterbacks, if you can't sack them, you're going to struggle. So I'm amazed they've been able to have the overall team success, because over the last few years, they have not been able to sack quarterbacks. And getting Bud Dupree is huge. If he is healthy, if you can get Bud to help and teach Harold Landry on the opposite side, you might have a nice 1-2 combination. And then add in Denico Autry from the Colts, right? He had 7.5 sacks last year for the Colts. He was a big time contributor for their success. You pair him up with Jeffrey Simmons. Now you have more than a formidable pass rushing attack with those two guys alone. So just being able to add two guys that can help the pass rushing woes was huge for them. I'm not expecting a lot from Janoris Jenkins. He's closer to the end of his career than the beginning. But getting Josh Reynolds, that's a wild card type of acquisition right there, because he has the skill set, wasn't really able to flourish there in LA because there were so many other top tier like pass catchers that were receiving opportunities. But right now he's instantly the number 2 guy. Will he be able to keep that role for their offense throughout the entire season? I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him put up some real nice numbers.
All right, guys, 1 week away from the draft. Let's talk about the biggest needs, because obviously there's still some holes to fill here. Danny, I noticed in your notes you have a defense with a lot of exclamation points. We're going to get to you in a second, because I want to start with BMAC. BMAC, you're going on the other side, and you want to see a weapon for Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, usually I love attacking the defensive side. I be a bit biased from time to time, but who cares? But now, this particular opportunity with the Titans, I gotta go offensive side, and I go pass catcher. The reason why I go pass catcher is because you lost 2 real ideal big time contributors from last year's offense. Corey Davis finally found the light switch in the room, and he flicked it on, and he made some real nice plays for Ryan Tannehill in the passing attack last year. You lost Corey Davis, then you lost Jonnu Smith. And we know when he was healthy, when he was in their uniform for the Titans, he balled out. He consistently balled out, especially in the red zone. So you lose 2 real nice pieces to your offense. You got to address that, because yes, you got Brown, but then you got Reynolds, who right now is the number 2 guy. You still have some concerns at the tight end position. And if you want to continue to see development from Ryan Tannehill, we know they will be able to run the football. But if you can't pass the football, if you don't have enough pass catches to be able to keep opposing defenses balanced, they're going to stack the box. So me personally, I would attack the offensive side, specifically speaking, pass catcher, because they lost 2 real good players from that team last year.
I like it, BMAC. We're kind of reversing roles today, because I'm taking on the defensive side of the ball. They were 4th worst in passing yards allowed. They were a defense that was basically a sieve. I remember Pete Prisco just throughout the back end of the season saying the Titans defense is awful, and he was right. So I think you have to address those needs, add some more pieces to the Bud Dupree signing in free agency. So I think it would be an outstanding place for them to start with that 22nd overall pick. I got a couple different options, because I think outside backer, if Zaven Collins is available at the 22nd pick, he's one of my favorite players coming out of the draft. I think I've mentioned here on several different war rooms. He's 6'5", he's big, he's physical, he's a 3-year starter. He was the winner of the Bronco Nagurski Award. He flies around. He had 4 interceptions this past year, including 2 pick sixes. He gets safeties, strip sacks. He goes after the ball. I haven't watched much film and see a player with better instincts of getting to the football and making plays than Zaven Collins. So I think he'd be an excellent addition. Then if you wanted to go secondary and address some of that pass defense specifically, because I'm with you, I don't think Janoris Jenkins is the answer. Greg Newsome was one of the best corners out of Northwestern this past season in college football. On 3rd and 4th down, allowed a 0.0 passer rating from quarterbacks trying to throw against him. He had the lowest percent completion percentage completed against him in college football. He's essentially at 6'1", 190 pounds, somebody who's ready to come in and play. And then the other guy who I think the guys that opted out, some of them have been forgotten about, and Caleb Farley out of Virginia Tech is one of them. Didn't play this last season, but if he had, he might be going even higher than where he is now. Another outstanding player back in 2019, 50 targets targets, only allowed 18 catches of those 50 targets, so perfectly capable of locking down some big wide receivers at the NFL level. So I'm addressing the defensive side of the ball at this 22nd pick. I'm holding off for my wide receivers.
Danny, I don't know if you feel like you've been talking there for a minute. Our producer Jack was giving you an A grade for your performance today. You are now at a C. You skipped ahead, my friend. You went ahead and gave us your biggest need and then your options for 22. So marks for you. You're a C. B-Mac is still at an A right now. B-Mac, let's talk about some options at 22. We already know what Danny thinks. What names are you looking at, B-Mac?
Great job, by the way, Danny. Great job. For me, at number 22, I talked about the biggest need I feel for the Titans was pass catcher. They addressed that need with my first pick, with the first option for me. That's Terrence Marshall Jr., a talented, explosive playmaker for LSU. Like I said, if you go back to that 2019 season, he was kind of like the forgotten brother, the step brother. But he can ball, he can put up real nice numbers, and he was able to do so even last year with a flux at players at the quarterback position, still was able to provide double-digit touchdowns. I wouldn't be surprised to see this guy emerged to be a big-time playmaker for the Titans, similar to what his former teammate and Justin Jefferson did. Oh, by the way, he knows how to do the gritty as well. But then offensive line-wise, they got to go ahead and fill the shoes that were left by Isaiah Wilson. Big-time disappointing first-round draft pick from a year ago. Tevin Jenkins, I mean, he's a guy who's played on both sides of the line, right side and left side, so he's familiar in doing other where he will fit nicely on the right side. I love how he attacks the game and run plays, and that will be huge for their offense because we know they love to rely on DERRICK King Henry and run the football. So instantly he provides not just depth, but that offensive line unit would be much better if they're able to get Jenkins if they decide to not address the pass catching position in the first round.
All right, let's talk about day 2 of the draft. So the Titans looking at 53, 85, and 100. Last week, I believe in this spot, you guys, both of you homers for Florida State guys. I don't know if we'll see that today. Danny, we'll start with you here. Who are you looking at in day 2?
All right, I skipped ahead because I was worried about we're at the soccer halftime or we have some press conference to cover. So I was trying to make sure we're not in a time crunch. All right, for my second round, maybe later pick for the Titans, this is where I think you address the wide receiver position. Because remember how we thought there was going to be this just crazy market in free agency with wide receivers, and then all of a sudden it kind of dialed it back a little bit. I think you see some players drop a little bit. So there'll be some incredibly talented options for the Titans to take a wide receiver. Rondale Moore out of Purdue is a player who lit up the college football world a couple years ago. He's a little bit on a smaller side at just 5'7", 5'8", but he can fly if you get the football in his hands. A little bit worried about his size. From a production standpoint, you want to see somebody who just can catch the ball in traffic, can take it and go the distance. Elijah Moore out of Ole Miss, led the country in receiving last year. I think he'd be an outstanding option. And then tackle is a position that maybe a little bit later you want to address. And Carmen Jackson, big physical tackle coming out of Clemson, plenty of experience going against some of the best talent in the country. I think that's another position because we know they want to run the football. We know their offensive line has been a little bit banged up, a little bit in recent history. I think they can address that as well too.
Well, for me, when you look at the day 2 options, it depends on which direction the team goes in the first round. You know, if they go offensive pass catcher, wide receiver, I wouldn't be surprised to see them attack other positions on the offensive side. So me, when I look at my day 2 options, Elijah Molden, he would definitely add some talent to the secondary. Danny, you talked about the concerns for their secondary, especially looking at how inconsistent they played last year. I love that pick. Elijah Moore, I really love Elijah Moore, Broward County native. The thing about Elijah, though, guys, if you're going to select him, you're going to have to trade up in the second round, even if he is available early in the second round, because I wouldn't be surprised to see a team roll the dice on Moore in the first round, late in the first round. But if he's available for Tennessee, and if you address the offensive line concerns in the first round, you better trade up in the second round to go get Elijah Moore. And then Spencer Brown from Northern Iowa. He has a mean streak. He's a former right tackle that moved to the left tackle over the last few years there, but he's familiar in playing on the right side. And like I said, with that mean streak, you have to address the right side of their offensive line because I said earlier, Isaiah Wilson was a big-time disappointment. And then Tommy Tremble athletic player. I love his ability to provide yards after the catch when he gets the football in his hands. He has a very, very high ceiling as well. I think he has a chance to be a much better pro than a collegiate player there for the Fighting Irish. And he's a red zone nightmare for opposing defenses. So if you can add him, I think Tennessee Titans will love that addition as well. Not to mention you lost some real good pass catchers. And I talked about Jonnu Smith not being there. You got to find someone who's athletic enough to be able to replace him at some point in time in the near future. Tommy Tremble could be that guy.
No shout out to Florida State, but we did get a Broward County shout out. So we like that, B-Mac. All right, B-Mac and Danny, thank you guys so much there for going inside the Titans war room, taking a look at their odds for the upcoming season. They're actually not the favorite to win the AFC South as of now, just slightly behind the Colts. The Colts are plus 100. The Titans, as you see, plus 115. They're the 6th favorite to win the AFC, 14-1 odds, and 30-1 to win the Super Bowl. And if you want to hear more from our good friend B-Mac along with Patrick Peterson, make sure to download and follow the All Things Covered podcast. The latest one, they're talking to Patrick Peterson's new teammate, Kirk Cousins. They also play 21 questions with him. Again, make sure to download and follow. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.